there comes a moment in life when something clicks. Not a thunderclap, not a grand revelation, just a subtle flicker, a thought that doesn't belong to the old you, a feeling that slips through the cracks of your everyday life and whispers, "There's more." And once it lands, you can't unsee it. You can't go back. You start noticing patterns where you used to see chaos. You feel detached from things that once defined you. The news feels absurd. Small talk becomes exhausting. Your friends don't really hear you anymore. And your old ambitions, they feel like clothes that no longer fit. You didn't choose this awakening like you choose an outfit. It found you. And it doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It enters in silence. Through heartbreak, through synchronicities, through a question that shakes the foundation of your identity. And now, you're here, still smiling, still functioning, but something deep inside of you has shifted, and you can't pretend anymore. You're not broken, you're awakening, but what they don't tell you is that the beginning of awakening doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like unraveling. And if you're feeling lonely, disconnected, unsure, overwhelmed, or like you're going crazy, you're not failing, you're not broken, you're just in a phase almost no one talks about. And this is the biggest mistake newly awakened souls make. They expect light, but instead, they meet the dark. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Signs you've awakened, but didn't realize it. Awakening doesn't come with a user manual. It's not marked with a sign that says, "Welcome to the fifth dimension." It's quiet, personal, and messy. Here are the signs, real ones, that your soul has begun to wake up. 1. The collapse of old meaning. What used to excite you now feels dull. Career milestones, shopping trips, casual parties, they've lost their taste. It's not depression. It's detachment from a reality you're no longer aligned with. 2. Increased sensitivity. You cry more easily. You get overwhelmed in crowds. You sense the emotions of others before they speak. It's not fragility. It's energetic expansion. 3. A sudden urge to be alone. Solitude no longer scares you. In fact, you crave it. Not to escape the world, but to hear your own soul without noise. 4. The breaking of identity. You question your job, your relationships, even your name. You feel like a ghost inside your own life. That's not confusion. That's your ego loosening its grip. 5. Synchronicities everywhere. You start seeing repeated numbers. Books fall off shelves. You think of someone, and they call. It's not a coincidence, it's resonance. 6. You feel like something is off. Like you're in a dream that almost makes sense, but not quite. You're waking up inside the matrix of your own mind. 7. You start caring about things that can't be measured. Energy, intuition, dreams, past lives. Suddenly these topics feel realer than your calendar or bank account. If you've experienced even a few of these, congratulations, you're not weird, you're not broken, you're awakening. But here's the twist. Most people think that awakening is the end of the suffering. They think, "I've awakened, why does it still hurt?" This is where the real journey begins. The real mistake is not realizing that the soul's awakening often begins with a storm. And that storm, it's called the void. Let's step into it. Chapter 2. The loneliness of awakening. Why the light feels so isolating. No one warns you about this part. They speak of awakening like it's bliss, like it's all love and light. Like once your soul expands, everything becomes peaceful. But here's what they don't tell you. Awakening is lonely, not because you're doing it wrong, but because you're doing it right. When your soul begins to shift, you enter a strange space. The in-between. You're no longer asleep, but you're not yet anchored in your new reality. And in that liminal space, everything feels foreign. Your friends don't feel the same. You start to hear the hollowness in conversations. You become hyper-aware of energy, of people draining you, of social obligations suffocating you, of entertainment that feels like noise. And slowly it begins. The retreat. You pull back. Not because you're bitter, but because your soul needs silence. Not because you're antisocial, but because your frequency is shifting. You need time to integrate, time to understand what you're becoming. And while the world keeps spinning at its frantic pace, you begin walking slower. You feel deeper. You observe more. This is where the illusion of separation kicks in. You may start to wonder, why do I feel so different from everyone else? Why does no one around me understand this ache, this yearning, this shift? Why do I feel like I've outgrown everything and everyone? You're not alone in thinking these things. You're just early. You're seeing through the veil. And yes, that veil protected you. It gave you the illusion of belonging. But once it falls, you're free. And freedom, at first, feels like loss. What you're losing. You're not just losing people. You're losing parts of yourself. The part that needed external validation. The part that feared rejection. The part that performed to be accepted. And what replaces them? Stillness. And in that stillness, you'll start to hear it. A deeper voice. Not loud, not demanding, but clear. It says, you're not alone. You're just ahead. Because what most call isolation is initiation. Chapter 3. The Spiritual Ego Trap. Mistaking Awakening for Enlightenment. Once you awaken, something curious happens. You begin to see the world differently. You become more intuitive, more sensitive, more aware. Synchronicities multiply. Your dreams become vivid. Your perception sharpens, and it feels magical. For the first time, you know there's something more. You can feel it in your bones. The universe is alive, and it's speaking to you directly. But here's the trap. You start to believe you've arrived. You start to believe you know. And that's the most dangerous illusion of all. Because the moment you believe you've figured it out is the moment you stop growing. This is what we call spiritual ego. It wears robes. It quotes scriptures. It speaks of vibrations, frequencies, shadow work, and chakras. But behind the veil, it's the same old ego, just wearing a prettier costume. How the spiritual ego shows up. Judging those who are asleep, feeling superior for being more aware, believing your path is the only valid one, using spirituality as a weapon instead of a compass, mistaking isolation for enlightenment. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Awakening doesn't make you better than anyone. It just gives you a different kind of responsibility, to listen deeper, to see clearer, to hold more compassion, especially for those who haven't seen what you've seen. The real awakened soul doesn't walk around announcing it. They don't crave being seen as spiritual. They know, the more you awaken, the less you need to prove. Why this trap exists. Because the ego doesn't die during awakening. It adapts. It goes underground. It sneaks into your meditations, your affirmations, your journaling, and it whispers, you're more evolved, you're further ahead, you're better. But here's the paradox. The more awakened you become, the more you realize how much you don't know. The truly wise aren't the loudest in the room. They're the quiet ones, the curious ones, the ones who ask more than they preach. Because awakening is not an end state. It's a continual unraveling. It's not a mountaintop you stand on, but a door you keep opening again and again into deeper mystery. A reminder. Don't mistake the first light for the sunrise. Don't confuse the map for the journey, and most importantly, don't let your awakening become your new identity, because every time you say, I am awakened, you risk stopping where you are. Instead say, I am waking up, because that is the truth. Awakening isn't a destination, it's a direction. Chapter 4. Why everything falls apart. After you awaken, and why that's a good thing. There's a moment after the high of awakening, after the synchronicities, after the blissful meditations, after the wow, the universe really is magic. Moments when everything starts to fall apart. Your job suddenly feels meaningless. Your relationships feel shallow. Your goals, once exciting, begin to taste like cardboard. And you start to wonder, what is happening to me? Let me tell you, You are not broken. You are restructuring. The Great Collapse. Awakening shakes the foundation you once called you. Everything built on false beliefs, survival patterns, people-pleasing, or unprocessed pain starts to crumble, because the moment your soul wakes up, it sends a signal out: only what is real may stay. And that includes careers that suffocate you, friendships that drain you, habits that numb you, identities that limit you. This collapse isn't punishment, it's purification. You're not being destroyed, you're being stripped of the masks, the distractions, the noise, the void. And then you hit it. The void. The place where nothing feels certain. You don't know what's next. You don't know who you are. You don't know where you're going. This is the part of awakening no one glamorizes. It feels empty, confusing, unbearable at times. You may find yourself crying for no reason, sleeping at strange hours, losing interest in everything you used to chase. But listen carefully. The void is not the end. It's the womb. It's the sacred pause between who you were and who you are becoming. This is the gestation stage, where your old self dissolves, and your new self hasn't fully formed. In spiritual traditions, this is known as the dark night of the soul, and it is brutal, but it is sacred, because it forces you to stop running, to stop performing, to sit with the questions: who am I without the roles I play? What remains when everything I clung to fades? What do I actually believe? And from those questions, a new compass emerges. What comes after the collapse? If you're here right now, if everything feels like it's unraveling, take a breath. You're not dying, you're deconstructing. And after the deconstruction comes reconstruction. Not a return to what was, but a realignment with what is true. You start to build again. This time on solid ground. You choose relationships that nourish, work that fulfills, routines that honor your nervous system, environments that match your energy. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it begins the moment you stop fearing the fall. The most reassuring truth: everything that falls away was never meant to stay, so let it fall. Let the tower burn, let the ashes settle, and when the time comes, rise, not as the person you used to be, but as the soul you came here to become. Chapter 5. The Love and Light. Lie. What spirituality doesn't always want you to know. You've heard it before. Love and light. Just stay positive. High vibes only. And while those phrases are meant to uplift, they can also deceive. Because awakening isn't all bliss and angel numbers. It's not just chakras and candles and peaceful affirmations. It's not just 5D downloads and cosmic alignment. Awakening is messy. It drags you into your shadow. It forces you to confront everything you've been avoiding. And that is not always wrapped in love and light. The trap of spiritual bypassing. There's a subtle trap on the spiritual path. It's the belief that you must stay positive no matter what. That anger is low vibration. That grief is a block. That questioning your path means you're falling behind. But real awakening doesn't suppress your pain. It invites it. It asks you to sit in your discomfort, to explore your rage, to cradle your heartbreak, to learn the language of your wounds instead of painting over them. Because the truth is, you can't ascend what you won't face, and you can't heal what you pretend doesn't hurt. What the love and light narrative misses. It misses the mother sobbing in her car after everyone thinks she has it together. It misses the man who walks away from his family business to follow a soul calling, while everyone calls him a failure. It misses the spiritual seeker who's meditated for months, but still wakes up with dread. Awakening doesn't make you feel good, and it makes you feel everything. And that includes the grief of letting go, the shame of past choices, the anger of betrayal, the emptiness of identity loss, the despair of seeing through the illusion and realizing you were asleep for so long. This is part of the journey, and pretending it's not, that's not high vibration. That's just denial. Shadow work is spiritual work. Carl Jung said it best. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Awakened souls don't avoid their shadow. They learn how to dance with it. They know your fear has wisdom, your shame has a story, your anger has a boundary, your sadness has a signal. These aren't flaws, they are sacred messengers. Real awakening is learning how to sit with the darkness until it speaks, not covered up with incense and affirmations. The illusion of only good vibes. Let's be blunt. If your spirituality depends on never being triggered, it's not strength, it's fragility. If you shame people for being in pain, you're not enlightened, you're bypassing. And if you believe awakening means you're now above the mess of life, you've missed the point entirely. Because true awakening doesn't separate you from humanity. It connects you more deeply to it. You stop judging others because you've sat with your own darkness. You stop needing to fix everyone because you've learned to hold space. You stop fearing suffering because you've seen that even suffering has a soul. So what is real love and light? It's not glitter and affirmations. Crying on the floor and letting yourself be held by the universe. Admitting your rage and finding the courage to not act on it. Forgiving someone who will never apologize. Forgiving yourself even when your past still haunts you. Sitting in the fire until it transforms you, not running from it. Real light is born in darkness, and real love includes truth, even when that truth hurts. So next time you hear someone say, love and light, smile gently. But remember, the deepest souls aren't always the loudest, and the most awakened among us often walk through the darkest valleys. Chapter 6. Why you'll lose people after awakening, and why that's okay. They don't tell you this at the start. They don't warn you. But when you awaken, you will lose people. Not because you've become arrogant, not because you're better, but because you've changed frequency. And not everyone is meant to come with you. The shift they can't see. Here's what happens. You start asking deeper questions. You stop laughing at things you used to laugh at. You stop gossiping. You stop numbing yourself with the same distractions. You say no more often. You start creating boundaries, and you stop saying yes just to keep the peace. And suddenly, the room feels colder. Your friends look at you strange. Your family wonders why you're being distant. But you're not being distant. You're becoming real. And not everyone knows how to sit with real. Why it hurts. Let's be honest, losing people hurts, even when you know it's necessary. Even when your soul whispers, this is right, your heart still breaks, because the people you're drifting from, they mattered. They were part of the old version of you, the version that didn't know better, the version that needed their approval, the version that still played the role, and letting that go is like a small funeral, a silent goodbye. But here's the truth, you're not losing them. You're releasing the roles you had to play to keep them. Some connections were built on who you pretended to be. That's the part no one says out loud. Some relationships were built not on truth, but on performance. You performed the easygoing friend. You performed the obedient daughter. You performed the always available partner. And now, you're not performing anymore. You're resting in authenticity. You're choosing self-respect over approval. And the roles are crumbling. So what happens? The ones who only loved your mask can't recognize your face, and they fall away. It's not rejection. It's realignment. You're not being punished. You're being pruned. Life is cutting away what can't hold the next version of you. It's making space. Because here's the wild part. When you lose the ones who were tied to your past, you create space for the ones aligned with your future. People who celebrate your growth instead of guilt trip you for it. Value your truth, not just your loyalty. Respect your boundaries instead of pushing past them. Speak your soul's language without you having to translate. But those people can't find you until you stop shrinking to stay connected to the wrong ones. When they say you've changed, smile. Because they're right, you've changed. You've changed your habits, you've changed your values, you've changed your energy, you've changed your vibration, you've chosen truth over comfort, clarity over chaos, growth over stagnation. And yes, that threatens people who are still living in the patterns you just broke free from. But that doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're evolving, and evolution always requires separation. This is the sacred solitude. So if you're feeling alone right now, if you're wondering, why do I feel more isolated the more I awaken? Let me tell you something. That space, that ache, that silence, it's sacred. It's the space between old connections fading and new alignments arriving. It's the chrysalis. And yes, it's uncomfortable. But you're not breaking down. You're breaking open. So sit in the silence. Let the disconnection do its work. And trust. The right souls will rise to meet the frequency you're finally willing to hold. Chapter 7. The Purpose Panic Awakened Souls. Go through, and what it really means. There's a moment in every awakened soul's journey when it hits. You wake up. You feel it. This overwhelming, haunting urgency. I need to find my purpose. Right now. Not next year. Not someday. Now it feels like a storm inside your chest. A desperation to align, to contribute, to make it count. Because suddenly you realize you were born for something more. But here's the twist. That urgency, that panic, it's not about purpose, it's about identity. Why the awakening triggers? Panic, not peace. We have this fantasy that awakening will be peaceful, euphoric, full of clarity and calm. But the truth? Awakening often brings more questions than answers. Why? Because for the first time, you've stepped outside of the roles you were taught. The role of the obedient child, the role of the good student, the role of the high achiever, the people pleaser, the overgiver. And now that those masks have cracked, you look around and ask, if I'm not all of that, then who am I? And that's when the purpose panic begins. Purpose isn't a job title. Let's bust the biggest myth. Your purpose is not your career. It's not your job. It's not your Instagram bio. It's not something you can package, pitch, or monetize. Your purpose is an energy. It's not about what you do. It's about who you become while doing it. That means your purpose can take many forms. A mother raising children with presence and patience. An artist who never sells a painting but channels divine love through every brushstroke. A quiet person whose grounded energy brings calm to every room they enter. Purpose is not loud. It's not flashy. It's not fame. It's frequency. And when you understand that, the panic softens. The mistake most awakened souls make. Here's the mistake. They try to think their way into purpose. They journal for hours. They pull endless tarot cards. They take personality tests. They chase signs. They obsess over clues. But purpose isn't something you chase. It's something you become. It emerges organically. When you live in alignment, you don't find it like a treasure map. You reveal it. By becoming more honest, more embodied, more real, the more you drop the roles, the clearer it gets. Clarity comes through. Movement, not meditation. Meditation is powerful. Stillness is essential. But here's a hard truth. You won't find your purpose by thinking about it on a yoga mat for 3 hours a day. You'll find it in the mess. In the experiment. In the conversations that stir you. In the small risks that wake something up in your chest. It's the book you can't stop talking about. It's the topic you ramble about for hours and don't realize time passed. It's the injustice that makes you cry without knowing why. Those are breadcrumbs. Follow them. Your purpose evolves with you. Another reason awakened souls panic. They think they need to find the one thing, the singular, grand, eternal purpose. But let me break it to you gently. Your purpose will change. Just like you. The purpose that fits you at 25 will expand at 35, and shift again at 45, and bloom again at 60. And this isn't a flaw, it's design. Because as you evolve, your capacity deepens. Your soul grows new edges. New callings emerge. So don't ask, what is my forever purpose? Ask, what is the most honest, most aligned step I can take today? And take it. That's how purpose finds you. From pressure to presence. So if you're deep in the purpose, panic right now, pause, breathe, Place your hand over your heart. You haven't failed. You haven't missed your calling. You're not behind. You're just remembering. You're shedding the noise. You're listening closer. You're tuning your soul to a signal you forgot was yours. And every step you take in truth, every moment you choose presence over performance, you're already living your purpose. Chapter 8. The Dark Night of the Soul. What it is and why it happens after you awaken. So you've awakened. You've seen through the illusion. You've felt the light in your chest and the truth crackle through your bones. And then, everything falls apart. The people you love feel distant. The things that used to excite you feel flat. You wake up heavy, empty, numb. You wonder, wait, was this supposed to happen? Isn't awakening supposed to feel good? Welcome to the Dark Night of the Soul, the chapter no one warns you about. The descent after the rising. But here's the truth. This isn't regression. This is initiation. What is the dark night of the soul? The dark night is not depression. Though it may look like it, it's a spiritual purging, a sacred unraveling, a period of complete ego dissolution. It's when the version of you that was based on survival, the people pleaser, the overachiever, the one who knew the rules, starts to die, and with it goes the meaning you attach to everything. Old relationships crumble, passions lose color, beliefs collapse under their own weight. You're not broken, you're being emptied, because the soul needs space to pour through. Why it happens after awakening? You might ask, why does this come after awakening? Shouldn't I be rising? Yes, but only after the fall. Awakening shows you the truth. The dark night forces you to live it. Before awakening, you can pretend. You can hold the job that drains you. You can keep the friendships that wound you. You can chase the approval that never fills you. But after awakening, you can't unknow what you've seen. So when you try to go back, when you try to live like the old version of you, your soul rebels. It says, this is not your life anymore. And the grief begins. You grieve the version of you that fit. You grieve the illusion that used to comfort you. You grieve the life you thought you wanted. This is not punishment. This is purification. The mistake most make during the dark night. Most awakened souls, when they hit the dark night, think they're failing. They say, maybe I wasn't really awakened after all. Maybe I imagined the whole thing. But that's not true. The descent is part of the climb. It's not a detour. It's the second half of the journey. You're not going backward. You're going deeper. Because awakening is not just about seeing truth. It's about embodying it. And embodiment requires shedding. You have to let the illusions die, even the comforting ones. How long does it last? Here's the answer no one wants, as long as it needs to. Some dark nights last weeks, others months. For some, it's years. But the timing isn't random. It's precision-tuned to your soul. What needs to burn will burn. What needs to dissolve will dissolve. And when the fire is done, what remains is real. What emerges is not the old you patched together. It's a new you, forged, not in light but in shadow. What not to do during the dark night. Don't rush it. Trying to speed through your grief only delays your growth. Don't numb it. Distraction, addiction, avoidance. It just presses pause. Don't spiritualize your suffering. This isn't a test from the universe. It's a cleansing. And most of all, don't compare your timeline to someone else's. This is your cocoon, your chrysalis, and you're not behind. You're becoming. How to survive and alchemize it. Anchor to something still. That might be breath, nature, a single mantra, even silence. Journal like your life depends on it, because in a way, it does. You are writing the map as you walk it. Let people leave. Anyone who can't sit with your darkness was never meant to witness your light. Be wildly gentle with yourself. This is not the time for big plans or 5-year goals. This is the time for tea, for tears, for rest. Trust the intelligence of your soul. It's not breaking you. It's breaking the shell that no longer fits you. what awaits on the other side. Every dark night has a dawn, not because you forced it, but because the soul is coded for light. When it comes, it's subtle. A single morning when your breath feels easier. A moment of laughter that surprises you. A memory that no longer haunts. And suddenly, without realizing when it's over, you emerge, not just awake, but whole, wiser, softer, more dangerous in the best way. Because now, you've met your darkness, and it didn't destroy you, it delivered you. Chapter 9. The Loneliness of the Awakened Soul, and the Truth about Finding Your Tribe. You'd think awakening would make you feel more connected, more alive, more in tune with the world. And in many ways, it does. But here's the paradox. The more awake you become, the lonelier it can feel. Why? Because awakening doesn't just reveal universal truth. It reveals who's not ready to hear it. The soul shift no one warns you about. When your soul awakens, your energy changes. It softens, expands. It becomes more honest, more sensitive, more vibrationally precise. And the people who matched the old you start to feel off. Conversations feel shallow. Small talk feels like noise. Social events feel like obligation. You try to go back, to be normal, to engage in the old ways, but it feels like wearing someone else's skin. You've changed your frequency, and not everyone is tuned to the same station. Why you start to lose people. You'll notice it first in the silence. Texts go unanswered. Plans fade. Certain friends don't reach out anymore. It's not always dramatic. Often it's just distance. And it hurts, because your heart is more open than ever. But the invitations grow fewer. Did I do something wrong? Why do I feel more alone now that I'm more alive? But this isn't punishment. It's realignment. You're not losing people. You're shedding frequencies. The vibrational gap. When your consciousness expands, your boundaries tighten. You can no longer tolerate fake laughter. You can no longer pretend to be interested in gossip. You can no longer lie about how you feel just to keep the peace. This is what creates the vibrational gap. It's not superiority, it's not judgment, it's just frequency mismatch. And here's the truth. You can't unawaken to fit back in. You can dim your light, yes, but it will cost you peace. It will cost you your authenticity. And eventually, it will cost you yourself. Why the tribe doesn't show up right away. You may have heard the phrase, your vibe attracts your tribe. And it's true, but they don't always show up immediately. Because the tribe you're calling in, they're not just any people. They are reflections of the awakened you. Not the you from before, not the you you're trying to shed. And until you stabilize that new self, the tribe can't find you. Why? Because if they did, you might self-sabotage. You might push them away. You might not believe you're worthy yet. The tribe arrives when you're ready to receive them, and that takes solitude. Solitude versus isolation. Here's where most awakened souls make a mistake. They confuse solitude with isolation. Isolation says, I'm alone because I'm broken. Solitude says, I'm alone because I'm integrating. One is rooted in shame, the other in sacred rest. If you feel lonely, good. That means you're in the sacred in-between, no longer the caterpillar, not yet the butterfly. You are cocooning, and the cocoon is always quiet. How to use loneliness as fuel. Instead of fighting the loneliness, work with it, create. Let your solitude become art. Meditate. Let silence be your teacher. Heal. Let your body exhale what it was never allowed to feel. Reconnect with nature. Let the earth remind you, you're never really alone, because the truth is, you're not meant to fit in. You're meant to resonate. You're not here to be popular. You're here to be precise. Your tribe won't be large, but they will be aligned. And when they arrive, you'll know. Not because they flatter you, not because they agree with you, but because they see the real you, the soul you, and you won't need to explain a thing. What to remember when it gets quiet. If you're in that space now, that void between the old world and the new one, let me remind you, you are not failing. You are not forgotten. You are not cursed. You are becoming specific, and that requires silence. Not forever, just long enough for the right ones to hear your signal. Chapter 10. Why awakening can feel like losing everything, and why that's exactly right. There's a strange moment that arrives after your awakening, a moment where everything you once clung to begins to fall apart. You lose the job that once defined you, the relationship you thought would last, the goals you were so sure were yours, and suddenly, the life you worked so hard to build starts dissolving. You look around and think, why is this happening now, right after I finally woke up? And the answer is this: because awakening is not an upgrade, it's a reset. The illusion of enlightened ease. You were probably told, somewhere along the way, that once you wake up, life gets easier, that you'd float, that you'd manifest effortlessly, that you'd feel in flow. And sure, that happens later. But first, your life breaks where it was built on illusion, not to punish you, but to liberate you. Awakening exposes the false foundations. Think of it like this: you were living in a house built on beliefs you never chose, on rules you never questioned, on goals inherited, not created. Then one day, awakening hits. You open a window, you see the sky, you feel the breeze, and now, you can't unsee it. You realize the walls were never yours, the furniture never fit, the routine never felt real, the mirrors never reflected the true you. So the house begins to collapse, because your soul has outgrown the architecture of your old life. You're not losing your life, you're losing what's not aligned. And that feels like chaos at first. Why? Because even the things that hurt us feel safe when they're familiar. Even the roles that stifled us gave us identity. Even the pain we normalized made us feel grounded. But here's the cosmic twist. Awakening is not about comfort, it's about clarity, and clarity will always cost you your delusions. The sacred burn. There's a phase in every soul journey called the sacred burn. It's the part where everything non-essential is incinerated. Relationships, labels, habits, identities, gone, and it feels brutal. But what's really happening is this: the fire is not punishment, it's purification. Everything that was not built on your soul's truth is being stripped away so you can rebuild, this time in alignment. You're not starting over, you're starting true. It might look like you've lost everything, but what you're really losing is everything that wasn't yours. You're not starting from zero, you're starting from truth, and truth doesn't need validation. It doesn't need applause. Truth just is, quiet, solid, unshakable. But here's the catch: your mind will resist. Because your mind is wired for certainty. It wants a map. It wants guarantees. It wants to know how the story ends. But your soul came here for the mystery, for the unfolding, for the wholly unknown. That's why awakening often looks like loss to the mind, but feels like liberation to the soul. And that internal split, that's where the real work begins. How to navigate the void. Here's what to do when everything starts falling away. Pause the panic. Don't try to glue broken pieces back together. Let the collapse complete itself. Grieve with grace. Just because it wasn't aligned doesn't mean it didn't matter. Mourn the version of you that believed it did. Resist the rebuild, for now. Don't rush into new goals, new identities, new people. Let the dust settle. Let the silence speak. Anchor into presence. Go back to breath, to earth, to simple truths. What do you know right now, in your bones? Trust the burn. If something is falling away, it's making space. Trust that what's coming will match who you're becoming. A reminder for the one who feels empty. If you're in that space right now, the space between the life you lost and the life you haven't yet found, let me tell you something your soul already knows. This is not the end. This is the threshold, the in-between, the chrysalis before the wings. You're not broken, you're being reassembled, not to who you were, but to who you really are. Chapter 11, The Trap of Spiritual Performance, and How to Stop Faking Peace. Here's a secret few talk about. After your spiritual awakening, there's a pressure that creeps in, a pressure to seem awakened, to look enlightened, to perform peace. You start to filter your emotions. You second-guess your anger. You suppress your sadness. You pretend to be above the mess because you think, if I'm truly awakened, I shouldn't feel this way. And just like that, your ego puts on a new mask, a spiritual one. The ego doesn't die, it evolves. One of the biggest lies in spirituality is that ego death is permanent. It's not. The ego doesn't die. It rebrands. It trades in the old identity dash for a more spiritual one. Suddenly, you're not trying to be popular or successful or loved. Now you're trying to be wise, calm, unshakable. But make no mistake, if you're trying to be anything, you're still performing. The good vibes only lie. You'll see it everywhere in the spiritual community. Quotes telling you to stay high vibe. Messages warning you not to lower your frequency. Advice to let it go when your world is breaking. And slowly, you stop feeling your feelings. You bypass your pain. You guilt yourself for being human. This is what's called spiritual bypassing, and it's poison. Because real peace isn't found through pretending, it's found through presence. Awakening doesn't erase emotion, it deepens it. You will still feel rage. You will still grieve. You will still have days where you want to hide under the covers and disappear, but now, you'll witness it, you'll stay with it. You won't run, because the awakened soul doesn't avoid emotion. They alchemize it. They turn pain into power, grief into grace, fear into fuel. How to recognize spiritual performance. Here are signs you've fallen into the trap. You pretend to be calm when you're boiling inside. You smile through tears because you're supposed to be strong. You feel ashamed for feeling angry or sad. You post spiritual quotes online but feel disconnected inside. You're more focused on seeming evolved than actually healing. Sound familiar? You're not alone. Every awakened soul hits this wall, because we've been taught that to be spiritual means to be soft, sweet, and always centered. But that's not spirituality, that's suppression. You don't need to be Zen to be awake. Your rage is sacred, your grief is valid, your fear is real, and pretending otherwise? That's just ego in disguise. You are allowed to be messy, contradictory, confused. Awakening isn't a costume, it's a confrontation with your shadow, with your past, with your humanity, and pretending to be healed only delays the healing. Give yourself permission to be real. Let go of the awakened persona. Let go of the pressure to be the spiritual guru on a mountaintop. You are here to feel everything. Not filter it for Instagram. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be whole. And wholeness includes darkness, doubt, discomfort. So the next time you're tempted to fake peace, try this instead. Tell the truth, even if it's just to yourself, especially then. Feel without fixing. Don't spiritualize your sadness. Sit with it. Let it speak. Take off the mask. No one heals through performance. Redefine a high vibe. It's not about feeling good. It's about being authentic. Remember, your soul chose this path, not to become someone else, but to remember who you've always been. This is the real work. Not the mantras, not the affirmations, not the crystals or incense or tarot decks. Those are tools. But the real work is being real, even when it's ugly, even when it's hard, even when you feel like you're doing it all wrong, because in those moments, you're actually doing it exactly right. Chapter 12, When Your Awakening Makes You Weird, and Why That's a Gift. You used to blend in. You used to laugh at the same jokes, chase the same goals, play the same games. But now, you can't. Something changed. You walk into a room and feel the energy before anyone speaks. You hear someone talk and sense the lie behind the smile. You scroll social media and wonder, how did we all get so asleep? And for a moment, you ask yourself, what's wrong with me? But the answer is nothing. You're not broken, you're just awake. Awakening makes you see differently. You can't unsee what you now see, the manipulation in the media, the emptiness behind materialism, the masks people wear in everyday life. It's not that you're negative, you're just no longer numb, and so you begin to feel like an outsider. Friends don't get you, family looks at you sideways, small talk exhausts you. You wonder if you're isolating too much, or if solitude is your new sanctuary. Truth, it's both. Weird is a side effect of expansion. You're not weird, you're expanded. And in a world that normalizes numbness, presence will always look strange. Your stillness is misunderstood as distance. Your depth is mistaken for heaviness. Your clarity intimidates the confused. And people start to pull back, not because you're too much, but because you're too clear. And that clarity, it threatens their illusion. You're not supposed to fit in anymore. You were born to break a pattern, to interrupt the trance, to walk a path not marked on any map. But let's be honest, that gets lonely. When you stop gossiping, people stop calling. When you start growing, people start judging. When you share your truth, people tell you to quiet down. And it hurts, because you're still human. You still crave connection, but what you're craving isn't popularity, it's resonance. You don't need more friends, you need true ones. You'll find them, not in crowds, but in echoes, in quiet conversations that feel like soul recognition, in people who've walked through fire too, and came out with eyes that see. The real ones don't mind your depth, they speak your strange language. They see your solitude as strength. You don't need to explain yourself to them. They feel you, because they've been where you are. They've questioned the same illusions. They've made peace with their weirdness too. Protect your weirdness, it's sacred. You will be tempted to shrink, to dull your insights, to make your truth more palatable, to wear the old mask just to keep the peace. Don't. Your weirdness is a compass. It points to who you really are. It protects your frequency. It filters your circle. Weirdness is not a flaw. It's a signal. And the moment you stop apologizing for it, the people meant for you will finally find you. They called every mystic crazy, until they were dead. History remembers awakened people as prophets, teachers, visionaries, but when they were alive, they were called heretics, blasphemers, weirdos, because awakened people don't mirror society, they challenge it, and that challenge, it makes the asleep uncomfortable. So if you're being called too much, take it as a sign you're waking up. And if your life is falling apart, take it as proof that your soul is reconfiguring the pieces, because only the awakened have the courage to walk away from the simulation and build something real. Here's the truth. You don't need to go back. You're not behind. You're just ahead of the curve. And the loneliness you feel, it's not a punishment. It's preparation. You're being carved into a vessel that can hold something deeper. You're being stripped of illusion so you can embody truth. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be aligned. Chapter 13. The most dangerous detour. Getting addicted to healing. Here's the paradox nobody tells you. After your awakening, you might become addicted to healing. Yes, healing. You start consuming books, meditations, podcasts, shadow work prompts, inner child exercises, trauma courses, chakra cleanses, and you tell yourself, I'm becoming whole. But quietly, something starts to happen. You begin to believe that wholeness is always one breakthrough away, that you'll finally be ready after one more journal entry, one more retreat, one more purge. And that's when the spiritual trap is set. The healing loop. You start believing that every emotion is a wound, that every trigger is trauma, that every problem is your inner child screaming. But sometimes, it's just life. Not everything is an invitation to go deeper. Not every mood is a symptom. Not every moment needs decoding. But when your identity becomes the one who heals, you start to fear who you are without the healing journey. You stay in analysis paralysis, you confuse growth with self-obsession, and your awakening becomes a performance, one where you're always in recovery. This is not healing, this is hiding. Awakening is not a wound to fix, it's a truth to live. Let that sink in. Your goal is not to keep healing forever. Your goal is to live, to build, to create, to love, to let life move through you, even when you're still figuring things out. Yes, healing is essential. Yes, trauma matters. Yes, shadow work is powerful. But at some point, you must step out of the cave. You must live your new frequency, not just study it. You don't need to be fully healed to be fully you. The myth of perfection is a spiritual virus. It tells you, don't speak until you're wise. Don't teach until you're perfect. Don't love until you're whole. But guess what? No one is ever fully healed. No one ever arrives. No one walks this earth in perfect alignment all the time. The real ones, they stumble forward. They live through the discomfort. They love while their hands still shake. They speak before their voice is fully steady, because they know wholeness isn't found at the end of healing. Wholeness is a way of relating to yourself, even while you heal. Spiritual narcissism, the ego in disguise. Here's another shadow most awakened souls face, the enlightened ego. It sounds like this: I'm more conscious than them. They're still asleep. I only vibe with high-frequency people. Everything happens for a reason, so their pain is their karma. Do you hear it? That's not wisdom. That's spiritual elitism. The ego didn't die. It just changed outfits. You don't awaken to become superior. You awaken to become transparent, to be a mirror, not a pedestal, to hold space, not seek praise. If your awakening separates you from compassion, it's not awakening. It's escapism. Stop trying to graduate from being human. This might be the biggest mistake of all. You awaken, and you think the goal is to transcend everything. No more emotions, no more mess, no more attachment. You try to ascend past your body, past your desires, past your pain. But your soul chose this form for a reason. You didn't come here to escape being human. You came here to embody divinity through humanity. That means crying. That means doubting. That means laughing at memes, eating chocolate, getting triggered, falling in love, and sometimes getting it wrong. That's not regression. That's real. You don't have to fix everything. Here's your permission. You're allowed to live without fixing every part of you. You're allowed to be whole and healing. You're allowed to help others even if you're still helping yourself. The you that exists right now, wounds, shadows, messiness, and all, is already enough to love, already enough to create, already enough to live. The wound is not the obstacle. Your shame about the wound is. A question to sit with. Who are you when you're not doing the work? Are you still worthy? Are you still loved? Are you still enough? If the answer feels like no, that's the real wound. And the healing is to stop searching for healing. Chapter 14. How to integrate your awakening without losing your mind. Spiritual awakening doesn't just open your eyes, it shatters your worldview. One moment you're living a normal life. The next, you're drowning in synchronicities, questioning reality, grieving your old self, and wondering if you're going crazy. This is the part no one prepares you for. Because awakening isn't just about light. It's about fragmentation, deconstruction, the collapse of everything that kept you safe. And that collapse is supposed to happen. Awakening feels like chaos, because it is. Imagine your life as a snow globe. Awakening doesn't gently add glitter to your scene. It picks up the whole globe and shakes it. All the identities you wore, gone. All the beliefs you inherited, cracked. All the paths you followed because someone told you to, disintegrated. This stage is terrifying, and it's meant to be. You're not broken. You're between selves. The chaos is not your failure, it's your rebirth. Integration is not linear. You don't wake up one day and have it all figured out. Instead, you ping-pong between clarity and confusion, between love and loneliness, between cosmic downloads and I forgot to do the dishes. Some days, you're channeling wisdom like a sage. Other days, you're crying on the bathroom floor wondering if anything is real. This, my friend, is the integration phase. And it's brutal because it's honest. You are learning how to live your truth, not just know it. The body must catch up to the soul. Here's what most people miss. Your soul awakens fast, but your nervous system, your body, your subconscious, they're still catching up. You've just downloaded a new frequency, but your operating system is still coded in survival. That's why old habits flare up. That's why you get exhausted. That's why you feel off for weeks, even after a breakthrough. Your body isn't betraying you, it's asking for patience. 5 practices for grounded integration. So how do you live the awakened path? Without floating away or burning out, here are 5 soul rooting tools to help. 1. Daily earth time. Touch the ground, literally. Walk barefoot, hug a tree, water your plants, cook your own food. Your soul needs to remember it has a body, and your body needs to feel safe in this world again. 2nd, scheduled silence. Create daily pockets of non-input. No podcasts, no scrolling, no spiritual teachers, just stillness. Let your own voice rise to the surface. That's where real guidance lives. 3rd, creative expression. Paint, dance, write, cry, building a channel the chaos through creation. Integration isn't just about thinking, it's about moving the energy. 4th, soul-aligned routines. You don't need to hustle, but you do need rhythm. Build simple rituals that help you feel grounded. Morning breathwork, nightly reflection, a spiritual shower where you release the day. Consistency creates coherence. 5. Spiritual hygiene. You're more open now, which means you're more sensitive. Clean your energy field. Salt baths, visualization, cord cutting, nature walks, whatever works for you. Treat your aura like your home. Keep it clean. You can't go back. Once you awaken, you don't get to return to sleep. You'll never be satisfied with the life you used to chase. You'll never again believe the stories that once ruled you. And yes, that can feel isolating. But it's also a gift. You're not meant to go back. You're meant to move forward differently, to build a life that honors the truth you've touched, even when no one else sees it. What integration really means. Integration isn't about being perfect. It's not about being peaceful 24/7. It's not about escaping discomfort. It's about being able to hold your awakening and your humanity in the same breath, to feel your shadows without collapsing into them, to remember your light without abandoning your body, to walk this earth awake, and still know how to smile at strangers, pay your bills, call your mom, dance when no one's watching. Because the real, enlightened ones, they're not floating above the world, they're fully in it, present, grounded, living their truth in real time. That's integration. That's the work. And you are doing it beautifully. Chapter 16. Your awakening is not a mistake. It's a calling. If you've made it this far, through the unraveling, through the dark nights, through the unbearable clarity, then please understand this. Your awakening was not a mistake. It wasn't a glitch in the matrix. It wasn't a nervous breakdown. And it sure as hell wasn't bad timing. It was a calling. And callings don't come when you're ready. They come when the world needs what only you can offer. You were called because something deep in the fabric of reality needed to shift. And you, whether you asked for it or not, were chosen as a vessel for that shift. You were chosen not because you're special, but because you're sensitive. Sensitive enough to hear the frequency most people drown out. Sensitive enough to break the cycle instead of repeating it. Sensitive enough to transform pain into purpose. The world doesn't need more conformity. It needs more clarity. And that clarity begins with the awakened. You didn't wake up because everything was perfect. You woke up because the illusion was too loud to ignore anymore. And the mistake most new awakened souls make? They try to go back to sleep. They try to make their awakening fit into their old life, their old job, their old relationships, their old patterns. But it doesn't work, because once you see, you can't unsee. This is your invitation to stop apologizing for being awake. Stop apologizing for needing solitude. Stop apologizing for seeing through the game. Stop apologizing for not being able to pretend anymore. You're not here to blend in. You're here to embody what everyone else forgot. No one told you it would be this hard, but somewhere inside, you always knew. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're remembering. Chapter 17. Now you remember who you are. So now, at the end of this road, and the beginning of another, you're left with something simple, something sacred. Memory. Not the kind that recalls facts or names, but the memory of your being. The kind of remembering that doesn't come from the mind, but from the soul. You remember that you are not your name, your past, your pain, your possessions. You are not your trauma, your resume, your labels, or your lineage. You are presence. You are potential. You are possibility, made real. You remember now why the world never quite made sense to you, why shallow conversations exhausted you, why chaos always made you calm, and silence always made you feel alive. You remember now that your truth doesn't need defending, that your heart doesn't need fixing, that your path doesn't need approval. You remember now who you were before the world told you who to be, and that memory is power. It's not something you cling to, it's something you become. You become the one who walks quietly but leaves echoes. You become the one who speaks softly but shifts rooms. You become the one who feels deeply but acts precisely. Because remembering isn't the end of the journey, it's the beginning of embodiment. Now, your job is simple. Be the one who remembers in a world that forgets, not to save it, not to fix it, but to remind it, by your very existence, that awakening is real, and so are you.